morning, Cyclones. I'm Ryan Hickman.
And I'm Molly Schaefer. Our top story, the Catholic Church, as I'm sure you all know by now, has a new pope. Pope Francis I was elected to lead the church just this past Wednesday.
I went to the hallways of SHG to try and find out what the people thought about our new pope, Pope Francis I.
I'm here with Steve Sartori. Steve, what are your thoughts about the new pope?
Well, he seems to be quite an interesting fellow, being from Argentina, and I think that might serve him in the greater future.
Interesting. And do you know a lot about Argentina?
No, it's South America, and that's really all I know. Speak Spanish a little bit. I think that's the right Spanish? Spanish, okay. Yes, Spanish.
Yes.
That's the language.
Good. I'm here in study hall with Mr. Sanders. Mr. Sanders, what are your thoughts about the new pope?
Well, I think it's a great deal. He's looks like he's a pretty good guy. You know, he's only got one lung. Seriously, they took his lung out. He was infected when he was a kid.
Wow.
Yeah, that's a pretty good deal.
That's pretty interesting. Do you have any other interesting facts about the pope?
Well, I was rather disappointed. I'd submitted Father Steve's name for, and I threw his name in the hat, but apparently he didn't get chosen. But can you imagine 140 of those guys trying to agree on anything?
I'm sure that it was something pretty entertaining going on in the chapel.
Now, old guys like me trying to decide something, that must be entertaining. But that's great. It's a good deal. We got him, and the faith will be moved forward, and everything will be great.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Sanders.
You betcha.
And I'm back. Molly, what did you think of those?
It's pretty radical.
Oh, thank you.
You're welcome.
Oh.
Next up, we have Dylan Miller with our very own bishop. We actually let him interview the bishop. Wow. All right.
Good afternoon. I'm here live at Cyclone Broadcasting Station with Bishop Thomas John Paprocki. As you all know, there has been a newly elected pope, the first non-European pope in over a millennium. Bishop Paprocki is going to give us some information and some personal opinion about the newly elected pope. Bishop, thanks for joining us.
You're welcome, Dylan. It's good to be with you here at SHG.
So, Bishop, how are you staying updated with the conclave? Where were you? What was going on? What was going through your mind?
Well, actually, yesterday when the news was announced, I was at Carlinville, and we were there for a couple of days with the priests of our diocese having some study days. We try to keep updated with some ongoing continuing education. And after the meeting finished, we had lunch, and then I had a meeting of our personnel board where we look at upcoming assignments, transfers of priests to different parishes. And one of the priests at the meeting was kind of following things along on his iPad. And sort of in the middle of the meeting, he said all of a sudden, hey, there's white smoke, So we knew that something was happening, and then he was kind of like watching that while we continued our meeting. And then when he saw that the band came out and the soldiers and all that and the Swiss Guard, and they were getting ready in St. Peter's Square, so we knew something was happening. So we all took a break and went to big screen TV, and we watched it all as it unfolded.
So, in your opinion, what are the most important tasks that the newly elected pope is going to have to deal with in his very near future? I mean, there's obviously a lot of problems going on in our world, but more so towards the Catholic Church, there's a lot of things he's going to have to deal with. What do you think are some of the biggest things that he's going to have to come at head on?
Well, he's got a lot on his plate, I think, coming up. He's got things internally in the church that we've been hearing about, dealing with some of the sex abuse scandals in the church, dealing with some of the issues of reorganizing what they call the Roman Curia, which is like the bureaucracy of the church in Rome that needs some attention. And then there are a lot of issues outside of the church. So the loss of numbers of people going to church in Europe, for example, and somewhat less so, but still a challenge in North America. And then parts of the world where the church is growing and expanding. It's growing rapidly in Africa and in South America, and so to be able to support that and keep it going.
Ha!
All right. Okay.
Oh, we're back? Oh, for the full interview with Dylan Miller and Bishop Paprocki, go to the Cyclones Broadcasting Team YouTube page.
Which is just SHG Broadcasting. Students, this is a reminder that you may not go to your locker during 4th hour without a pass. This means if you have a lunch, you need to get your books to class, or for class, pardon me, before you go to lunch and get your nibbles. Sorry.
In sports news, it seems that Tiger Woods is back on the map after winning the World Golf Championship Cadillac Championship at Doral Golf Club in Miami, Florida. Woods won by 2 shots. Way to go, Tiger.
can win by 2 shots, but you can't not cheat on your wife. Ooh, sorry.
That's 2 snaps.
Next up, we have a wonderful treat for you, another day in history with Mr. Lavin. Legend.
Legendary.
Hello, SHG. I'm here with Mr. Lavin on Today in History with Mr. Lavin. Mr. Lavin, do you have an answer for us from last week?
Do you remember the question?
It was the salary of Babe Ruth.
Yes. Babe Ruth in 1930 signed a 2-year contract with the Yankees, and it was reported there would never be a higher paid baseball player. So the question was, for how much money did Babe Ruth sign that contract? Was it A, $50,000, B, $110,000, C, $160,000, or D, $550,000?
How much?
And the answer was C, $160,000.
What do you have for us today on the 15th?
Well, several. Probably the most famous event that ever happened on the 15th of March took place in 44 BC, the assassination of Roman dictator Julius Caesar by a group of senators. On this day in 1493, Columbus returned to Spain after his first voyage to the New World. In 1916, U.S. Army troops entered northern Mexico in pursuit of Pancho Villa, who several days earlier had attacked a small town in the state of New Mexico. And the big question, the big event for the day is, in 1783, an Army general gave a very emotional speech to a group of fellow officers, asking them, begging them, not to challenge the authority of their country's government. So the question is, who was that general? Was it A, Napoleon, B, Frederick the Great, C, Ivan the Terrible, or D, George Washington?
You can find out the answer next week on Today in History. Mr. Lavin.
And I'm Ryan Hickman. You stay classy, Cyclones.